Hey, everybody, welcome back to the Appalachian Wellness Connection. We have an exciting episode for you guys today. As you can see, my co host is much prettier than Dr. Kevin. This is my beautiful wife, Saralynn.
Hey everyone, so I'm so excited to be on my first podcast experience. But today in this episode, we're going to be breaking down the nuts and the bolts of how to make healthier Thanksgiving decisions. So, we're going to give you some practical tips and some tools to serve you as a practical guide so that you can have options this Thanksgiving.
Yeah, so whether you're on level one, just getting started, or you're on level nine and you're trying to tighten up that last 10%, we're going to speak to everyone in this episode. And as Saralyn said, give you some practical guidance to help make this Thanksgiving a bit healthier. So let's go ahead and start real quick. So if we look at Thanksgiving, the centerpiece is the turkey, but most people are either going to bake it or fry it. And here's the thing. So if we bake it or roast it, it's almost always going to be a healthier option. There's less oxidation, less inflammatory oils. It's just a cleaner way to cook your protein.
Yeah, but let's be real. Some of you guys love to fry that turkey. So, if you're going to fry it, let's do it a little bit smarter. The best oil for frying, hands down, is going to be beef tallow. It handles high heat so much better. It doesn't oxidize like vegetable oils, and it's an ancestral fat. So, our bodies actually know how to deal with it.
Yeah, the big thing here is we want to avoid seed oils.
Mhm.
Seed oils are going to be canola, soybean, corn, sunflower, safflower. These are unstable polyunsaturated fats, or what we call PUFAs for short. When these oils get heated, they oxidize, and the majority of the time they're actually oxidized as soon as you get them, really. We'll get into that in a minute, but oxidation is going to be very stressful on the cells. It's going to irritate the liver, irritate the gut, and disrupt our cell membranes. It's going to cause their ability to function to really decline. On top of that, when we look at how they're produced using some really high heat. One of the things we know about fats is high heat is one of the number one enemies to destroying that fat and making it oxidize. Oxidized fats are one of the worst things that we can put in our bodies. So we have to be really, really careful with these PUFAs. In the production of these PUFAs, we also use chemical solvents like hexane. We have to be able to pull that oil from the seeds. We have to use hexane to be able to do that. From there, we are left with a pretty gross looking oil. So they have to bleach it to make it look a little bit more presentable. And then it smells horrible. So they have to then go in and deodorize it. So as you guys can see, we're left with something that's pretty much man-made after that. It's been altered in the chemical process so much that we have to be very careful because these are seriously causing a lot of issues in our body when we consume them on a regular basis.
Yeah, so bottom line, these seed oils are seriously going to inflame our body as well as alter our actual cell membranes. So, this may not sound like a big deal, but it's actually detrimental to long term health. So, beef tallow, is it a perfect and easy option? Maybe, maybe not, but it's definitely way, way better for your body. And that's the whole theme of this entire episode is let's make some better choices. It's not going to be perfect, but all these little things are going to add up to be great for your body.
Yeah. So if we look at the next things, we talked a little bit about food. Let's look at things like silverware and plates. So most people in this category are going to opt for convenience and whatever's faster, especially in the cleanup process. But there
Mhm.
is some serious trade-offs here. So if we consume things like plastic plates and plastic cups and forks, we have to be very careful. We done an episode, earlier where we talked about the average American consumes a credit card's worth of plastic each week, right? And so we're over consuming these microplastics and we have to be very, very careful. Lynn's going to talk about next what happens when we heat those plastics up. It becomes even worse on the body.
Yeah, so a lot of times we're putting our hot food on these plastic plates, then we're using our plastic forks and all of that. And when you mix heat and plastic, this is going to result in microplastics. We all know that is horrible for our health, like he was talking about. We end up, these little tiny microplastics add up to a credit card size of plastic in your body. You're adding every single week. This is horrible. This is going to cause inflammation, hormone disruption, some stress in your body. So what we want to do is go with some glass plates, your normal plates. I know it's going to be more washing. Throw them in the dishwasher. It's going to be worth it for your health and how you feel that day, but also health long term. Maybe go for ceramic cups, your glass cups at home. And then let's use some real silverware. So again, it may not be super simple. It is going to be worth it. It's not perfect, but it's definitely going to be better for sure.
Yeah, I think when we look at, I want to break down and make this a little bit practical. So if we think about, oftentimes when there's a little bit of food left on our plate, like we're kind of scraping up that plate, or scraping up that food rather. And the big idea here is every time we scrape that plate, we're scraping off those plastics. And you may be thinking, why use paper plates, right? It really doesn't matter because those paper plates are going to have plastics sprayed on top of them. I mean, just think about this for a moment. Paper and water don't mix, right? So there has to be something there that acts basically as a covering to keep that plate from breaking down. So even paper plates are going to have that plastic sprayed on them. We look at paper cups, for example. It's the same way. We can't put hot coffee in a paper cup and expect it to hold up, right? So when we have this hot coffee in there, we're just drinking tons and tons of microplastic. And when you look at the research, the microplastic is a major problem that we're going to have, especially um, for women that already have hormonal disruption or men that have low testosterone. When we add in these xenoestrogens, that's going to really alter the balance when it comes to the hormones. And so, what I want to speak to next is this idea of what we call the dirty dozen and the clean 15. So, this is a very simple way to make selections a little bit easier for us. So, if we start with a clean 15, this is a report that they do every single year,
Mhm.
where they come out and they say these are the cleanest fruits and vegetables that have the least amount of um, spraying of pesticides on them. So, if you're looking at something that you can't get organic, you want to make sure that it's on this clean 15 list because it's going to be cleaner altogether.
Yep. And so the Dirty Dozen, like he was talking about, this again is redone every single year. You can Google it, but just some ideas of what's on the Dirty Dozen. So things you don't want to buy traditional, you want to go with the organic option are apples, think spinach, some kale, grapes, strawberries, any of these that are going to be in like your Thanksgiving, spread or whatever. You want to grab organic if you can. It's definitely gonna make a big difference for sure.
Yeah, and another thing too, right? So sometimes, we go to parties and family events, and we're choosing, what do we want to eat and things like that. If there's a fruit tray and it's not organic, just memorize that clean 15 and memorize that dirty dozen, and that'll make your selection of what you're going to put on your plate a little bit easier to choose from. So the clean 15 is going to be the ones with the lowest amount of pesticide
Mhm.
residue left on them. So things like onions, sweet potatoes, mushrooms, avocados, even bananas are going to be on that list. And so there's safer options, but you still got to keep in mind your toxin. You want to try to keep that toxin level low. This is just a helpful guide to be able to choose. Okay, which ones are going to be cleaner versus not as clean in that conventional farming model. And so, another practical thing for our listeners, just think about how you consume the fruit or the vegetable. Take a banana, for example. Even if that banana is sprayed, you generally don't eat the peeling of the banana. So, you're going to peel the banana and you're going to eat the inside. If you're consuming the fruit or vegetable that way, it's always going to be a healthier, safer option because the chemical is going to be sprayed predominantly on the outside. But on the flip side, when we look at some of things like spinach, for example, we eat the entire thing, right? So if that spinach has been sprayed, we're consuming the majority of that pesticide. So we have to use caution whenever we do that.
Yeah, so good rule of thumb that we think about if you can't remember what's on the clean 15 or dirty dozen, it's like, does it have a thick skin? Are you eating the skin? Because if you're taking that skin off and it has that thicker protective skin, then there's going to be less pesticides on what you're actually eating. So
Yeah.
things like melons and bananas, like you said, those are okay to not go organic, but strawberries and spinach, you're going to be consuming that whole thing. Plus, they're very absorbent. So you're going to be eating all those chemicals. So stay away from those things. But let's go back and let's break down the Thanksgiving meal. So let's hit a few staple things and then we'll give you some easy swaps to make your Thanksgiving a little bit healthier. So let's start with some dressing or stuffing, whichever is like your preference. So instead of going with the cheap bagged bread and the canned broth, let's switch to some sourdough bread and maybe some bone broth. So this is going to add a lot more nutrition into those dishes. It's going to be better for your gut. It's going to cause way less inflammation. And plus bonus points, if you make your bread at home, it's going to be it's going to taste better, honestly, but it's also going to be a lot healthier for you. Just overall, you're going to have a cleaner dish that's going to be easier on your body, and you're going to have more nutrition by using those real, hopefully freshly made ingredients.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. What we know about those ingredients is when we process them, right? So processing, even though we're just grinding the grain, something that simple, that's still a process. The minute we start altering or processing, our food ingredients, they start breaking down on us. So if we can choose whole ingredients and then
Mhm.
process them and then consume them, they're still going to have the majority of that nutrition and beneficial enzymes still left intact to make the digestive process much easier on the body.
Yes.
So
So
go ahead.
he's saying like process them at home. So maybe even grind your own flour, but that's kind of like high level. That would be ideal, right? But even just making your bread at home, that's you're doing the process at home is going to be way better and easier on your body than the processes that are done in a factory.
Yeah. So if we think about, what we talked about earlier, we want to give a practical guide. So the
Mhm.
practical guide kind of looks like this. If you're level one and you're buying the bread, level two might be, buying some organic bread or some gluten-free bread. Level three may be, buy the sprouted, bread, right? And as we get further, maybe level nine would look like grinding it yourself, doing the sourdough process, baking
Mhm.
it, that type of thing, right? So don't get too locked up where you say, "Man, I don't even have a grinder. Like I can't do these things." Just make it practical. The entire point of this episode is to give you practical tools. So you're not going to be able to master all of it. Take a few of these things, master it, and then you can make, better steps, the next time, right? We have to start on level one, then go
Mhm.
to level two, and then we work our way up. So don't get overwhelmed trying to be level 10 right off the bat. So let's look at mashed potatoes. So mashed potatoes always have, some type of, butter, margarine, some kind of milk that's put in there. So we got to skip the margarine. This is hands down a no-brainer. Opt for grass-fed butter. There's going to be so much more nutrients in that grass-fed butter, and choose real cream as well. And so, for those people that are worried about the mashed potatoes spiking their blood sugar, a healthy opt there is going to be sweet potatoes. They're going to be, more of a resistant starch, so the blood sugar is not going to be it's not going to spike as much. So it's going to be a little bit more steady. So opt for the sweet potatoes in that moment.
Yeah, throw a little cinnamon on there. Me and my son use cinnamon literally every day and add it to whatever we can because that's also going to keep your blood sugar a little more level. You're not going to have as high of a spike. So put some extra cinnamon on those sweet potatoes, the sweet potato casserole, all of that. But let's talk about another thing that people love at Thanksgiving, some green bean casserole. So instead of using the canned beans, let's opt for some fresh green beans and then make your own cream sauce. It's going to taste way better. It's going to be way healthier, way less inflammatory on your body instead of using that soup can with all kinds of stuff added to it. It's just going to be an overall cleaner option. Maybe a little bit more work, but it's going to be worth it for sure. Desserts, everyone's absolute favorite. So we're going to be making the pies. Let's use real butter. One of my hacks for finding healthier recipes and making things like a sweet potato or a pumpkin pie at Thanksgiving, get on Pinterest and just put in the search bar healthier version pumpkin pie because we want to stay away from the things like Crisco and stuff like that. Let's use some real butter, some real cream, and it's really not that much harder. I don't think it's harder at all. Just go to
Yeah.
Pinterest, get your recipe, follow it. Maybe use some maple syrup or some coconut sugar instead of just like refined white sugar. Again, we're just trying to make better choices. It may not be perfect, but all these little things are definitely going to add up and you're going to be thankful later.
Yeah. So the next thing we want to talk about is this idea of gratitude is the healing ingredient. And
Mm.
so when we think of Thanksgiving, it really should be revolving around gratitude. And I think this is what makes Thanksgiving so powerful. So gratitude is one of the most powerful states of mind or emotions that we can experience. When we look at what it does to our nervous system, we know that when we're stressed, our heart rate's going to increase. We're going to have more tension, cortisol. We're not going to sleep as well. Gratitude actually reverses that. When we look at what it does with cortisol, it's going to help lower cortisol, relax our muscles, and help our heart rate and blood pressure actually be in more of a resting um, type of zone as opposed to too high, basically. And so, as gratitude goes up, healing goes up as well. And so, this shouldn't be this foreign idea, foreign concept. God wired our bodies to work this way on purpose. And so
Mhm.
before we eat the meal, take a moment, go around the table, each person share what they're grateful for. This is a very powerful thing to do because it's powerful for someone to speak it, but it's really powerful for someone to hear it because most of the time, you're grateful for the people in the room, right? And so it's nice to be able to hear that, but even take it a step further. You eat your food, you're lounging around. Just thank God for all the things that He's done in your life. Not only is that going to make Him feel good, right? But that's going to make you feel good as well, right? We're here on this earth to honor Him. And so let's honor Him with all the things that He's given us and just, you know, tell Him that, right? God wants to hear it.
And so the last bit that we're going to go over is rest. I think this is really important. So you can eat clean, you can hydrate well, you can detox, you can use light therapy, you can use supplements, all of which, we do. All of that is really great. But without rest, your body can't repair. So Thanksgiving, it's just the perfect time to slow down, to breathe. Let's reflect on things that we're thankful for, like he was talking about. Let's spend some time with family and let's actually let your body and your mind rest. You're going to heal so much better. So, rest, it's not a luxury. We think we have to get our whole to do list done before we can rest and like deserve it. But no, God designed rest as a gift. And if you actually look at the days of creation, Adam and Eve were made on day six. And then day seven was when God rested and commanded them to rest. So, literally, humans' first full day, they entered into rest. They didn't go through a whole week of working. They first started off with rest. You don't need to earn it, you don't need to deserve it. God designed rest as a gift for us, and Thanksgiving is just like the perfect time to take advantage of that for sure.
Yeah, right. And the Bible says that Sabbath was made for man,
Yeah.
not the other way around, right?
Yeah.
And so it's very important for us to do that. Rest is an investment in ourself to do better work tomorrow,
And to
right?
love people better.
Yeah, and it's not laziness. Rest is to some degree an active process. It's intentional, right? It's not laziness. It's not lounging around, not doing anything, not achieving anything. It's intentional. And so, as you head into this Thanksgiving, remember you don't have to overhaul your life right away. Just start with some basic. Better decisions. Better choices are going to stack. They will build momentum. Better choices create a healthier you and a healthier family. If this episode helped you, share it with a friend. We want to help as many families as we can here in Appalachia and beyond. So we love you guys. We appreciate you. As always, take care and God bless.